Okay, good evening. It is Monday, June 6, 2022, regular Stayton City Council meeting here. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. First of all, let's go ahead and start with a flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, real quickly, quite a quick modification to the agenda. We'll be moving up the general business Stayton Sublimity Chamber of Commerce portion to prior to the public hearing, but after the consent agenda. With that, are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Are there any declarations of ex parte contacts, conflict of interest, or bias?
President Patty.
Yes.
Just to make a declaration, as part of the budget hearing committee, the topic that we're going to address under the chamber came up, and that was a discussion I had via public members of the community in that particular committee meeting.
Okay, we have one from Councilor Quigley about the chamber. Is anybody else going to declare? Okay, and just real quickly, I have to just acknowledge that I did answer an inquiry regarding this OLCC liquor license to somebody associated with the applicant, and that will not impact my judgment in making a decision on that one. With that, Carrie, we do have some public comment, so if you'd like to go ahead and do that now, that's totally fine. Or you could also just wait until the public comment portion of the Stayton Sublimity Chamber of Commerce in a few minutes here, whichever you'd like. Go for it. And thank you for coming tonight. Zoom.
Are they zooming? Okay.
All right, Carrie, if you'll just go ahead and state your name and your address, and then we'll begin your 3 minutes.
Burnett Street, and I also own Covered Bridge Cafe at 510 North 3rd. I'm here in support of the city joining the chamber. I guess I didn't really even realize that the city wasn't a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I think that the chamber and the city could create quite a partnership as far as, I mean, the chamber is kind of our advocate as business owners and kind of selling us and networking with us to create a better place for all of our businesses to be successful. And I can't imagine why the city wouldn't want to be a part of that as well. I didn't know. I guess I just assumed that the city belonged to the chamber. I think they have in years past. I spoke to some other CAs from previous years, and they were like, yeah, why wouldn't you be a part of the chamber? I also just want to share, I was at a fundraiser event on Saturday night, and I happened to be seated at the Chamber of Commerce in Kaiser's table. And I had just gotten this information about the city not being with the chamber, so I asked at the table to the chamber director, I go, does the city of Kaiser belong to the chamber? And she said, oh my gosh, yes. In fact, two of our city councilors to your left, I didn't know they were city councilors, one of them is the liaison between the city and the chamber, and they kind of are that middle person that meets with the chamber, I don't know when, monthly or whatever, and they meet with the city, and they have a great partnership. They're very supportive of each other, and I just really have to advocate in favor of the chamber, the city becoming a member of the chamber. I think it's good business. I think it gives a good rapport to all of us that the city is with us. Like we're all one big happy membership family. That's all I have. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Alyssa, was there any more public comment this evening?
And Mayor, Mayor, I've just upgraded you, Counselor Patty. We did receive a written public comment, which was distributed earlier from Carmel with the Chamber of Commerce, along with several letters of support, which were all distributed and posted on the website.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And has everybody had a chance to review that, or were there any issues receiving that by email for anyone? Okay, hearing none, I think we're good. Next item on the agenda is going to be the consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion on that at this time.
Counselor Patty?
Yes, Councilor
I
Ford.
move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Alyssa, will you please poll the council?
Sure. Counselor Ort?
Yes.
Counselor Patty?
Yes.
Counselor Quigley?
Yes.
Counselor McDonald?
I will abstain as I was absent.
Okay, motion passes 3-0 with one abstention.
Okay, moving right along here. Next item on the agenda is going to be an item for general business, the Stayton Sublimity Chamber of Commerce. With that, we'll receive our staff report from Alyssa Angelo.
Good evening, members of the council. Before you is the request that was discussed a few times in the recent past. Most recently at the Budget Committee meeting, it is a request from the Chamber to increase the annual funding support to the Chamber from $799 to a $2,500 membership. At the April 18th, 2022 City Council meeting, Ms. Bielenberg appeared before the council to request that this funding be raised from $799 to $2,500. Following that presentation, the council had requested a council liaison be appointed to the State and Sublimity Chamber of Commerce Board and directed staff to explore relationships between other cities and their chamber to begin formalizing a proposal with varying degrees of funding levels for the council to consider. Additionally, the part of that motion was to also include the $2,500 into the proposed budget to be considered by the Budget Committee. So that was in the budget and is part of the approved budget from the Budget Committee. I failed to put it in the staff report, but I did look back and there is already, it's been a couple years, but we did appoint liaisons. If you remember, we did general categories, and I looked up, and for that category that it fell under, it would have been Counselor Hook would be the liaison, the designated one. So just wanted to point that out if we want to revisit reappointing a liaison or whatnot, but I just wanted to make sure I pointed out that we did already have that in place, and it was just we hadn't revisited it. Following that meeting, staff did begin researching relationships with other like-sized cities and their local chamber of commerce, and our intention at that time was to return in the second meeting in May. During the May 2nd Budget Committee meeting, the president of the Chamber of Commerce came forward and made a proposal. The proposal included the $2,500 membership plus $15,000 in the budget to support the visitor center. During the budget review it would have been May 10th, we reviewed the proposal and we had provided the data that was compiled, relationships with other like-sized cities have with their local chamber of commerce, and information on the city's collection of the transient occupancy tax. Over the last several years, there was no movement by the Budget Committee to include funding for the visitor center, and the Budget Committee in the end felt a decision on the membership should be made by the City Council. The rest of it is a repeat of what we had talked about at the meeting in April, that if we're looking to have financial support over the $1,000, it would be of support, different than a membership. We would encourage council to consider doing an agreement with deliverables and expectations and guidelines, which we had discussed at the prior meeting. So with that, I will turn this over to the council for discussion.
Thank you, Alyssa, so much. Real quick, before we get at this, I just want to go ahead and give an opportunity for any member of the public who wishes to go ahead and speak at this time, because that is in place on the agenda. Okay, hearing none, we'll continue on to council discussion.
Councilor Patty.
Yes, Councilor Quigley.
I'll start. I guess for me, it's a philosophical difference, and I want to really be fair in this assessment, and I appreciate Carrie for coming here and supporting the idea of membership to the chamber. The last time Carmel came and gave her presentation, one of the first questions I asked is, how did we get in this position today? And by asking that question, I was asking for a contract. I was asking for a membership form dated somewhere where it shows there was an agreement for the city to enter in to this partnership, if you will, between the city and the chamber. And nobody could provide that to us, not the city nor the chamber. The communication from the chamber, as recently as today, has the word contract underlined. One of the chamber members submitted some testimony about contract law and also referred to a membership form in that letter today. None of that has been submitted, so the question about renewal, the question about joining membership, in my mind, it's not a renewal because there hasn't ever been a membership agreement penned. So I'd like to see us start from that standpoint. If we're going to do this, and I think that there's some valid reasons about strengthening the relationship, I really want to see, number one, a membership agreement in place. Number two, for me, has to be that council / chamber relationship. During the budget committee, we saw all those examples, multiple examples of that connection between chamber activity and the local government body. There was, every single example, with the exception of one, had representation in some form or another, whether it be on the board or the liaison piece. That's vital for us. For me, it's really vital. So I'd like to start there, and that's my 2 cents for now.
Thank you, Councilor Quigley. Would anyone else like to speak on this?
Councilor Patty?
Councilor Hort?
This is not my original thought. This is one of the budget committee members. And I just felt like he said it really well, that this is investing in the chamber brings that investment in multitudes back to our community. And if we can figure out a way to satisfy these contractual issues and make this happen, I think that we can make this a win-win and have a positive result. So I feel like the community, the council as a whole wants to make this happen. So really what our job here right now is, like, how do we move forward and make this happen? Okay, we need these things in place. Let's, talk to, like you said, Councilor Quigley, let's talk to the chamber and say, okay, these are our stipulations. We have a liaison. I don't believe that she was necessarily a board liaison, but the idea of that position was supposed to be a connection for the council. And having this in writing and having that contract just really alleviates any of that that gray area, and we all have, a clear representation of what this relationship looks like. But I would love to see this move forward, and we're talking about $2,500. You can see in our budget that we don't have any advertising. We don't have an advertising budget for our city. And it's vital for our economic growth to have somebody advocating for us and our businesses, and that's the chamber.
Councilor Patty.
Go ahead, Councilor McDonald.
I tend to agree with Councilor Quigley and Councilor Ort. I think we want to make clear kind of whose responsibility it is to come up with this contract. If we're just expecting the chamber to write it for us, basically, and then present it to us, we should state that clearly. If there's going to be some sort of collaboration on what we expect, deliverables we want to see, then we should definitely have those. We want to be proactive in providing those, so they know what to expect and they know what what the expectations for them are. My second point is, I guess, just a kind of a process question. If we're kind of all in agreement that we're amenable to X number of dollars of funding over the 2,500 that's in the budget currently, as a process issue, can we approve that pending a contract negotiation of some sort, or would we need to have that in front of us first and then bring a motion to fund at X level based on the contract a finalized contract? What's the order of operations there for that agreement?
I definitely hear you on that. Real quick, I just want to touch on something that's been said at this point. Alyssa, as far as the just basic membership level for the $2,500, did the chamber indicate at any point they were interested in entering into a written agreement with us for that amount?
I did not hear that. In reading the comment received today, it seems in their eyes, there's a membership agreement, like an application that we fill out, which I haven't received. I don't have something like that. And so in that respect, I don't have anything. And I didn't, today was, I guess, the first day when I read through the email about a membership agreement, that there's an application sent. And that's just not something that I've received. Usually we get, what I got was the membership brochure and then an invoice. And so if there's some sort of agreement, I have not seen it. So I guess I would have to see if that is something that they have, that, because it kind of was insinuated that there something like that exists, that would suffice what it's promising. And I would have to go, and in response to what Councilor McDonald said, I would say that the council can give staff the direction and lay out what you want us to do, and we as staff can run with it so that we're done with it at this level. If that hopefully answers your question there.
I think it does. Thank you,
Okay.
Alyssa. I appreciate that.
Councilor Patty.
Go ahead.
I think, not to split hairs or have semantics difference, but from my standpoint, I really want to have that distinction between what is a membership and what is a partnership. I think in the past, the city has definitely partnered with the chamber. I think from a membership standpoint, there's a question still whether the government model is actually a business model, and therefore the way it's broken down to the charges, because we have each department, is how it's tiered from a fee perspective. I don't necessarily agree with that. I really want us to really, again, dive into partnership versus membership piece and what's afforded to us for it. I know Carmel had mentioned some of the deliverables that we get with the membership level at that tier. Some of the stuff I have questions about, from a standpoint of job recruitment, job postings, okay. referring each city department. In my estimation, if someone's seeking out information about the city, they're going to go to the city's website and filter down to the department so that they have the information on the questions. They're not necessarily going to go to the chamber and in turn go to the city. So there's a lot of things there that I still have a lot of questions on. I'm encouraged with the new city manager coming next week. I think that's a great start for that relationship. I think that's a great assignment, if you will, maybe to dive into off the bat. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Okay. So hearing all that, anybody else have anything else they wish to address before we move to a decision?
Councilor Petty?
Yes, Councilor Ort.
I recall at the meeting that Carmel came to, that we were talking about like what the deliverables were, and what I got out of that was that the brochure was basically like, these are for the amount of money that you're, at each package level, this is what you're gonna get. But from the city standpoint, if it's over $1,000 and we agree to do something over $1,000 at the $2,500 level, then we need a contract. So what I was understanding is we take this verbiage, we take what's on here and basically put it in a contract, is what I'm understanding, right? That's kind of what we kind of came to in terms of like agreeing on what those deliverables were at the $2,500 level. At least I don't want to speak for Carmel, but I feel like I asked her that question and that was kind of what came out of that. So I just wanted to clarify that piece of it. And then we had talked about, I apologize, we had talked about the visitor center, and I just feel like I'm interested in partnering with the chamber and figuring out what that looks like. I just feel like we need more time to kind of delve into that conversation and what that looks like and what those deliverables look like for the community. But I'm interested in having that conversation and possibly moving that forward at some point, maybe having a work session and trying to hash that out if you guys are interested in that. So I just don't think we don't have enough time to really like decide on that right now. So I don't personally want to move that forward at this time.
Yeah, sorry, Councilor Patty. I think that was the ask, right? The ask was for $15,000 to support the operation of the visitor center as it currently operates. With no specified changes or additional benefits for the city, right? Operates as it is currently. That was the proposal. So I think we can respond to that request, or we can respond with, well, our additional funding is going to be for that and X, Y, and Z, or, whatever we decide our deliverables are going to be. And somebody's got to take the reins on that. I don't know if it's me or whoever. But we've got to we can't just, leave it at that and then keep kind of kicking this can down the road. So if you ask me personally, I would say, do I think the visitor center as it operates right now deserves our support? Absolutely. Is it $15,000 worth? I don't know if I can answer that. Probably, because it seems like from the demonstrated data that they've given us, it's pretty low comparatively to what they've shown. I don't know if the city came up with any other examples
We did, so I know you weren't at the budget committee meeting, we discussed it, but we did typically what other cities do to fund visitor centers is they use their transient occupancy tax, which is like the hotel tax, rental, Airbnbs, not rentals, but Airbnbs. And so we did pull the data on what kind of funding that we get there, which is very minimal. I think over the last 5 years, it was totaled $15,000. It's just, we don't have a hotel.
Sure.
So those numbers are fairly low.
Okay.
But that's typically how other cities partner with their chamber on the visitor center, is that tax goes to the visitor center, and there's an agreement in place on what the deliverables look like. I saw an agreement with another city where they went into, the city is giving you this money, and you, the chamber, agree that the visitor center will be open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, as an example, and that you will only close on these dates, and there's just very specific deliverables in there for that piece of it.
Okay.
And then as for how other cities partner with the chamber, yes, several had memberships with board liaisons that attended meetings. And I can pull it up if everybody, we do have the slides here. Yeah, if Tammy wants to, it's on the other.
I think that may be beneficial since Councilor McDonald wasn't here to see that.
So up there you have hopefully you can see, I know it's kind of far away, Ben, of course you're the farthest. But what you have up there on the left are the places that we receive or have received occupancy taxes from over the years, and that goes back to 2015. And it totals yearly, it's about $2,000, give or take, each year. Up there, and so far in 2022, it looks about $1,750 is what we've received to date as of May 5th, 2022.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, and then do you want to just go to the other side? You there? And then this slide just shows you the other cities that we were able to reach out to and what their partnerships look like.
That center column is the member fees, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving past that, real quick, I just want to hit on this. I absolutely see value in this relationship with the chamber, and I hope that everybody in attendance now understands that I think every counselor sees value in the chamber and furthering this partnership. At this point, we're just deciding on how to go about it and what the first step is and what the monetary funding amount is going to be. So I just hope everybody in attendance hears that, and that, at least coming from me, that's how I feel about the chamber. Is anybody else wishing to speak on this? Okay. Is anyone prepared to make a motion on this?
Counselor Patty?
Yes, Councilor Ward.
See which one, hold on. Okay, I would like to make a motion to direct staff to negotiate an agreement with the Stayton Sublimity Chamber of Commerce to set expectations, guidelines, and deliverables, and approve an annual contribution of $2,500 plus half of the transient occupancy tax.
Okay, just so I understand, half the transient occupancy tax every year, or?
Every year.
Okay, got it. So we have a motion on the floor to direct staff to negotiate an agreement with the Stayton Sublimity Chamber of Commerce to set expectations, guidelines, and deliverables, and approve an annual contribution of $2,500 and the transient occupancy tax. Do I have a second on that?
Half.
Oh, I'm so sorry, half of the transient occupancy tax.
Just one question. Is this motion in addition to the $2,500 for the membership that we had talked about previously, or is this in place of?
Counselor Patty, can I retract my motion real quick?
We have a rescinded motion. Go ahead.
Counselor McDonald, I think, so just for clarification, at the budget committee, we basically passed along to the council to decide whether or not we were going to give them the $2,500 that they asked for, or if we were going to continue with the $799. So
Okay.
what we're doing right now is deciding what membership we're going to give them.
Okay, fair enough.
Does that mean, yeah.
No, I just,
And/or, I mean, I guess then I can amend my motion.
Well, you've rescinded it at this point, so
But
you
I
have to
will
make a
make
new.
a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, ready. I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to negotiate an agreement with the Stayton Sublimity Chamber of Commerce to set expectations, guidelines, and deliverables, and approve an annual contribution of $2,500 plus half the transient occupancy tax. And direct staff to look further into other contracts of visitor centers. See what that looks like.
Can you repeat that last part of the motion? I'm sorry.
And direct staff to look into contracts of other visitor centers.
Okay, we have a motion to direct staff to negotiate an agreement with the State and Sublimity Chamber of Commerce to set expectations, guidelines, and deliverables, and approve an annual contribution of $2,500 plus transient, plus half of the transient occupancy tax, and direct staff to research other chamber agreements for visitor centers. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second for that motion?
yes, I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second from Councilor McDonald and Councilor Ort.
Can I
Do we have discussion?
give an explanation for my?
Yes, we're in
Okay.
discussion, good.
Thank you. So I don't know where we want to go with this discussion for the visitor center, but I agree with Councilor McDonald that we need to start somewhere and have a conversation about it. And so that's why I want to direct staff to bring us back some information so we can make an educated decision about that. And however that pans out, but I want to get the ball rolling.
Councilor Patty?
Yes, Councilor Quigley.
I think staff already came back to us with some numbers that were on the last screen about the visitor center and some other comparisons. There's one example there. The second portion I have a question on is, how is it chamber entitled to transient occupancy tax if none of those folks are in the example or members of the chamber? I have no idea how they're entitled to something, especially if they're not chamber members.
Councilor Patty?
Yes, Councilor Ort.
Just for clarification, for the visitor center portion, I'd like to see, like, give us some, do we need to have maybe this is back on us, do we need to have a work session of what those deliverables would look like if we wanted to participate in the funding the visitor center? So I understand we have numbers, but what are other cities getting for that funding is basically what I'm looking for. So like you said, give us some examples. Are they, their requirements for hours of operation, certain number of website hits or whatever it is, so that we can figure it out and put that all together to start that conversation and say, this is what we're looking for in our agreement.
Councilor Patty?
Yes, Councilor Quigley.
I can understand where Councilor Ort's coming from as far as that goes. I'll take it one step further. If we're going to do that, I would like the chamber to come with their expense sheet showing what expenses it takes to operate the visitor center. What's the rent factor for that building? What's the charges of the material they have to give out, et cetera, et cetera. We want to do this. Let's fully vet it and let's be transparent about it. So I'm good with it if you want to do it that way.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Any further deliberation?
Councilor Patty?
Yes, go ahead.
Again, I want to see if we have an answer to how the chamber is entitled to the transient occupancy tax. I don't understand. So can someone enlighten us on how that works? Alyssa, do we know?
Not an expert here, but that money is collected due to tourism. And so the tourism, potentially the people are going to the chamber and utilizing the visitor center portion. And so that's my understanding is why a lot of cities fund it with that tax money, is it's tied to tourism. Oh, hold on.
Yes, Dan
Like
Fleischman.
Dan has something.
Please enlighten us.
If I may butt in here,
Go right ahead.
I can attempt to answer Councilor Quigley's question a bit. State law requires that local governments that collect a transient occupancy tax, that instituted that tax after a certain date, spend a portion of that tax on tourism promotion. Stayton's transient occupancy tax was enacted prior to that date. So there is no requirement on how we spend those tax funds. So it may be, and part of my speaking is as a former board member of the Stayton Sublimity Chamber. It may be that the chamber feels that they have some entitlement to those TOT funds, but there is none, to answer Councilor Quigley's question.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes.
And as has been explained, our TOT collection is so minimal that it really would be negligible even if we provided them with all of our TOT funds.
Thank you, Dan. What was last year's TOT figure, Melissa? Do you happen to have that handy? Just so we can kind of get a dollars and cents idea of what we're talking about year over year. Just a grand total would be fine.
Looks like for last year, 2021, it looks like it's about $2,500. Am I reading that right? I'm far away.
Thank you.
Yes.
Counselor Patty?
Yes, Counselor.
I mean, and to the tourism aspect of that, we have no idea what exactly who are using the rooms and what they're using them for. I mean, some of the rooms that are used for visiting doctors at the hospital. I mean, is that tourism? I guess it could be on the weekends, but primarily function of that rental, if you will, is to serve during the work portion of the hospital. I mean, there's a lot of factors involved in that, so I just don't see where the word entitled, which was used in the actual letter, where they're entitled to anything at this point, so.
Thank you.
Counselor Patty?
Yes, Counselor Ort.
I was working at the Grove one day, and I had a traveling nurse. I can't recall where she was from, but somewhere in the Midwest. And she was here in town, going to work at the Santiam Hospital, and she had her son and her mom there they were like bringing her out basically. And they came and they were eating and utilizing Third Ave, which is really cool to see. So that's just, I cannot say whether or not they were directed anywhere by the chamber, but I believe that those Airbnbs do bring commerce to the area.
All right. Go ahead and call for the question at this point, Alyssa.
Counselor Ort,
Yes.
Counselor McDonald,
Yes.
Counselor Patty,
No.
Counselor Quigley.
No.
Motion is tied 2-2. And we do not have a tiebreaker tonight.
You're our tiebreaker.
I can't by charter
Yeah.
break a tie.
I know. Your position is the
All right, so what do we do with this then, Alyssa? Do we defer this? I mean,
It's a no.
Counselor Patty?
yes, Counselor Quigley.
Side note, this is why we need to have legal counsel representation at the council meetings. But that's for another day.
Don't your bylaws tell you what you gotta do in a tie? I'd be the mayor, he's not here, so who's filling in the mayor?
There,
Well, so,
Right, so what we're just acknowledging for the members of the public is that when there is a tie of the remaining members, the mayor normally would break a tie, but by charter, the council, or leading this meeting, does not have the ability to break that tie. That's why we're all discussing that.
so then it goes to a no, right? It's a tie.
I would probably lean that way, that it would go to a no, and it fails.
Okay.
Okay?
Counselor Patty?
Yes.
I would like, if it pleases the council, I would like to defer this particular topic to the arrival of our next city manager and let her be the first one to resolve and bring it back to council based on everything we talked about tonight. She has a basis. There's a lot of history there. Let her reach out to community and let's start the discussion from that standpoint. But I think just from why it's here in front of us today has the history to do with the previous city managers, plural. So let's start anew if that pleases the rest of the council.
Yeah, I kind of subscribe to that as well. I mean, initially when we were doing this budget committee before and we were talking about her coming on as city administrator, I was just thinking that this is a perfect challenge for her. In addition to that, I just got to say, I hope that the statement that we see value in the chamber is not lost on anybody in the audience tonight. Like, we see the value. For me, I just want to make sure that there's a formal agreement in place between us and them. And I'd like to see an actual application and what that entails. So that's kind of where I'm at on this one. But thank you.
Counselor Quigley? So clarification, you would like to have the new city manager kind of figure this out and bring it back to the council.
Yeah, yes, Councilor Ort, the chamber member's position tonight. We received a letter today, one of the chamber members, right? And in that letter, the argument was made that this should really be an issue decided about on a natural progression of membership fee that should be without all this drama that we've had, right? I don't disagree with that. Let's let her have the authority and the trust that we had in hiring her. Let her address this. Let her take it on. So that's my position.
Counselor Patty?
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Orr.
So if we don't take any motion on this, where does that stand with the membership?
Alyssa, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think if this is what the council would like to do, we probably should have some sort of motion to hand it back to the new city manager. And if you're wanting her to come back with follow-up and what her proposed solution is, that you include that in there. Just because the last motion is still kind of hanging out there, we need to come back and basically what we're doing now and what we did at the last meeting, right? So the cleanest way may be to do some sort of motion.
Let me ask a point of clarification. So is it accurate that the $2,500 membership fee that passed 3 to whatever the portion was that passed initially, that's in the budget today, right? Passed by the budget committee.
Correct. So back in April, the council said, put the $2,500 in the proposed budget. And so it is the $2,500 is in there in the membership fees in the budget that's coming before you this evening.
Right.
And so that's there. The direction from council on April 18th was put it in there, but don't spend it until we tell you it's okay to spend it, essentially.
Okay.
Councilor Ward?
Counselor Patty, I guess so the motion that I made though was to negotiate an agreement, set expectations and guidelines and deliverables, which is what we said we wanted. So I guess I'm just a little confused as to what else we want besides this in order to fund the $2,500. If that's what we want, we're directing staff to do that, right?
Councilor, if I may, my objection was the transitory occupancy tax half. I'm not going to support that.
This is Councilor Patty, real quick. I also don't support that, Councilor Ward.
Okay. So I will make a motion to direct staff to negotiate an agreement with the Stayton Sublimity Chamber of Commerce to set expectations, guidelines, and deliverables, and approve an annual contribution of $2,500, and direct the new city manager to reach out to the head of the chamber to negotiate, or no, strike that, talk further about the visitor center and start that conversation. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to direct staff to negotiate an agreement with the State and Sublimity Chamber of Commerce, set expectations, guidelines, deliverables, and approve an annual contribution of $2,500, and to reach out to the head of the chamber to begin talking about an agreement. Did I get that right? Okay. The visitor center. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, I will second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilor Orton, a second from Councilor McDonald. Deliberation. So I guess I kind of have a question about the motion at this point. When you say reach out to begin talks with the head of the visitor center, do you just mean speaking with Carmel Bielenberg about formalizing some sort of agreement above and beyond the $2,500? Is that what I'm interpreting correctly from that motion?
Yeah, something that she could bring back to the council in terms of if we were to, join in a partnership in funding the visitor center, what does that look like? From our perspective and their perspective. She could bring forward to us and say, this is what we're looking at. She has an economic development background, and I feel like she'd be strong in figuring out the situation. That's what I would hope she could do.
Thank you.
Councilor Patty?
Yes, Councilor Quigley.
So I'm okay kind of with that. My question is, if the chamber says no to any liaison and/or membership on the board, what do we do from that point? I'm not okay with that.
That's my sticking point as well with this.
Councilor Patty?
Yes, Councilor Ward.
So clarification to both you councilors, do you want someone on the board? Or can it, how we were going to have a liaison to the chamber in general?
Okay, so for me, it doesn't seem like the liaison has been successful the last 3 years, because I think that's when this was appointed in 2019, right? So I don't really see that as a tenable solution either. I think this needs to be a formal member of their board.
Well, listen, when you put that slide back up real quick, does it distinguish between liaison and board member on those examples you gave? I think it just used the word liaison. I don't think it was.
Liaison, yeah.
To me, it looks like a bit of a mix there. It looks like some of them are board members and some of them are liaisons.
For me, that's very vital. I mean, that's going to improve, in my mind, that's going to improve this entire relationship on both sides of the fence. I have to have that in there. And when we asked that question of Carmel last time, the very first time she was there, I don't think we can do that. Well, somehow we got to get to that point for me.
And I guess, sorry, Councilor Ort.
Go ahead, Alyssa.
If I'm hearing right in Councilor Ort's motion, she's asking for us to negotiate this with the guidelines and the deliverables, et cetera. I think what you're asking, and is what you're asking in regard to the $2,500? Okay. That could, I think, be encompassed in with what her motion that you made. That can be taken as an expectation that when Julia gets here, that is like one of the expectations that's non-negotiable, I guess you could say, in some ways.
Gotcha.
Councilor Patty?
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Ort.
Dan, if you're in the Zoom land, Dan, you said that you were a former member of the chamber. Was that as a city representative?
Shortly after my arrival here, there were vacancies on the board. I was asked by a current or a board member at that time if I was interested in serving on the board. So while I was definitely there as the city planner / planning development director, whatever my title was at that time, it was not a designated slot on the board for a representative from the city. And I served for, I'm going to guess, 5 to 7 years, and felt that it was time to let someone else do that role.
Thank you. And Councilor Patty, a follow-up to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Ort.
Is the expectation that this is, the liaison is a counselor, is a city staff, and then who is going to fill that role? Let's say they say, sure, you can have a spot on the council, who's going to fill that role?
Alyssa, I think that's a great question for your research from other municipalities. What did that arrangement look like?
So what Tammy is telling me is she's who did this research for us, by the way.
Thank you,
That's
Tammy.
why I'm referring to Tammy. What she's saying is that it was a mix, that some of them it was an election, and some cities had a staff member and some had a council member.
Okay, I think that if that is a sticking point for us, then we should figure out what that looks like. Or decide what that looks like.
I don't know. I mean, if they're not even willing to have one, either a member or a liaison on their board, it doesn't really matter what we want it to look like. I guess that's my initial thought to that.
Okay, so we first make sure that that is something that they are willing to do, and then we figure out how to fill that spot. Okay.
Any other deliberation before we take a vote on this? Okay, Alyssa,
Sure.
go ahead.
Can you read the motion before we do?
Oh, yes, please do that.
Oh, boy, okay. Did you write it down? You want to? I'm going to let Tammy, she's taking my notes for me tonight.
The motion is to direct staff to negotiate an agreement with the Stayton Sublevany Chamber of Commerce to set expectations, guidelines, and deliverables, and approve an annual contribution of $2,500, and direct the new city manager to reach out to head of the chamber and talk about visitors center.
Okay,
I think that gets the spirit.
All right. Counselor Quigley,
No.
Counselor Patty,
yes.
Counselor Ort,
Yes.
Counselor McDonald,
Yes.
motion passes 3-1.
Okay, moving on. We got a public hearing tonight. So prior to that, I got to read something to you all. And I'm trying to find the right one. Okay, looks like we got the state sharing and revenue funds here. So prior to this budget hearing, Oregon Revised Statutes 221.770 requires 2 public hearings to be held to hear from citizens regarding the use of state revenue sharing funds distributed to the city of Stayton. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony on the proposed uses of the funds. Before opening the public hearing, we will receive a staff report.
Susanna, you need to share your screen on Zoom so everybody out in Zoom land can see it. Thank you.
All right, good evening, council. All right. So this portion, this evening, we're going to start with the state revenue sharing. So on your agenda, this is the amount of revenue for the state revenue sharing. And in order for the city to receive these state revenue sharings, council must first approve resolution 1035 that certifies the city qualifies and is eligible to receive this revenue for the cigarette tax, liquor tax, state revenue sharing, and state gas tax. And then the second resolution is 1036, where council needs to approve the election to receive these funds from the state revenue sharing portion in the amount of $843,400. That completes my staff report.
Thank you, Susanna. Okay. So I will now open the public hearing. Does staff receive any written testimony regarding the proposed uses of the state revenue sharing? Alyssa?
No, we did not.
Okay. Did city staff receive any requests to testify virtually regarding the proposed use of state revenue sharing?
No, we did not.
Is there anyone in the audience this evening who would like to provide testimony regarding proposed uses of the state revenue sharing? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing, there being no further public testimony. Next is going to be council deliberation on this when a motion is made.
Councilor Patty.
Yes, Councilor Quigley.
I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the attached resolution. I'd like to offer a motion that we approve resolution number 1035, certifying the city of Stayton's eligibility to receive state shared revenues by providing the necessary municipal services.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Alyssa, will you go ahead and pull the council?
Sure. Counselor Quigley,
Yes.
Counselor Ort,
Yes.
Counselor McDonald,
Yes.
Counselor Patty.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Councilor Patty.
Yes, Councilor Quigley.
I'd like to offer a motion to approve resolution number 1036, declaring the city's election to receive state revenues.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Councilor Ort and Councilor Quigley. Alyssa, will you go ahead and pull the council?
Sure. Counselor McDonald,
Yes.
Counselor Quigley,
Yes.
Counselor Patty,
Yes.
Counselor Ort.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. So with that decision, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item. City of Stayton 2022-2023 fiscal year budget. And with that, I have something else for me to read, right? Yeah. Okay, so Oregon budget law requires that a public hearing be held by the governing body prior to its adoption of a budget for the ensuing fiscal year. The purpose of this hearing is to receive public input and testimony concerning the concerning the budget approved by the Stayton Budget Committee. We'll now receive the staff report.
All right. So on the agenda you have before you this evening is to approve the FY 22-23 fiscal budget. The Budget Committee approved the budget as is presented to you this evening on Wednesday, May 11th of 2022. The budget is a $13.9 million budget with appropriations in the amount of $24.4 million, with the property tax rate at 3.328 per thousand, with the library levy tax at 40 cents per thousand, and the recreational levy, at 50 cents per 100,000 of the assessed value. The recommendation from city staff is to approve the budget as presented. That completes my staff report.
Thank you, Susanna. I appreciate that. All right, well, with that, going to be opening, I will now open the public hearing. I apologize. Did city staff receive any written testimony regarding the fiscal year 2022-23 budget?
Did you say written? Sorry.
I did say written.
Okay. We did receive one item from Sandy Porter. It was posted and emailed out to the council and passed out this evening to members of the council.
Thank you. Did everyone have a chance to receive and review those materials? People are looking at papers. That tells me yes. Okay. Did city staff receive any requests to testify virtually regarding the fiscal year 2022-23 budget?
No, we did not.
Is there anyone in the audience this evening who would like to provide testimony regarding the fiscal year 2022-23 budget? Okay. Well, I am going to go ahead and close the hearing. Hearing none. Next item is going to be council deliberation on this decision. I hope everybody had a chance to look at what Sandy had said here. I was interested to hear what other councilors thought of this proposal here.
Counselor Petty?
Councilor Ort?
So just for the audience's sake, we had a community member request the city of Stayton to add sirens to the emergency budget. So she was stating that back in the wildfires of 2020, that there wasn't really a system to alert everyone. She doesn't sleep with her phone, so the reverse 911 wouldn't work for her. And so her proposal is to install sirens on various areas of town. I see 6 different locations, and I did speak with her about this. And so I'm interested in what other counselors have to say. I'm also interested, and I see the chief back there. I know that there is an alert system that we've talked about at length. I'd love for you to come up and just kind of brief us on that again. And then I received an email today from our representative, Jamie Cate's office. And I just briefly was able to read through it. Did you see this too, Alyssa?
I received it. I have never
Okay.
had a chance to review it.
It's the OSFM Wildlife Readiness and Response Grants. And again, I apologize, there's information on here, I just wasn't able to read it. And so I'd be interested to see if this was something that we wanted to move forward on, or even explore if we could use something like that, something on here to do something with that. So.
Chief, what you got for us?
Good evening, everybody. So first of all, the alert system that we use throughout the county and the state of Oregon is Everbridge. The city has put it on our Facebook page. There's actually posters running around of lovely me in uniform looking at my phone saying, hook into Everbridge. In regards to the letter that you received, I've had personal contact with Ms. Porter, and we've had a long conversation about this prior to this. This is, I think, the second letter in regards to the sirens. In regards to her complaint that evening, Everbridge is a sign up. People have to do that. I'm working with Summerfest. We are actually going to have people from Marion County Emergency Management, Dispatch, ourselves, Stayton Fire at the police department during that event, and we're going to be signing people up for Everbridge. So those that haven't done it will do that. There's also reverse 911. So in an emergency where people don't have cell phones and that kind of thing, we can actually go through reverse 911, which is another option. We've used it. Probably last time I remember us using it is we've had some cougar sightings down around the Dairy Queen several years ago and stuff, and we actually did an alert for everybody to let them know that there was a potential sighting for a cougar. So if they don't have that on their phone through the Everbridge, it'll go through the landline. So we have multiple ways of actually notifying people. The concern that I have with air sirens is this. If I ask you right now, if you were on the coast and you hear an air siren, what does that usually notify to you?
Tsunami.
Very good. If you're in the Midwest and you hear a siren, what does that usually tell you? Both two are, exactly, and they're two different responses, aren't they? Tsunami, if I'm in the lowland, what am I doing? Going highland, right? If I'm in the Midwest and I hear it, and I think it's a tornado, I'm gonna find shelter really quick, right? Shelter in place. So for here, for this is what we're doing is there's no message that goes along with that. We don't have those type of events. So if we threw a siren out there, then what do we do? Do we stay? Do we go? We create conflict. We create chaos. That's not what we're trying to do. We're actually trying to simplify those messages to ensure we can give people instruction. So could an alert system work like that here? Yes, but we'd want to make sure it's very specific because that's the answer I'm looking for right there. Anybody in emergency management is looking for that very specific to what we're asking you to do. Because if not, it creates a lot of problems. So I understand the fear. Some of that's technology. Some of that's just the basic. It is there. We do have that. In regards to your wildland fire program, I actually been going through my emails in the back there. And we're actually working with Marion County Emergency Services and Sheriff's Office of coming up with an evacuation plan and different programs and stuff as the Canyon, as a group, fires involved, we're involved to look at a really good set of plans that we can actually all work to. Because there were that night, as you know, we're going to go back and I've talked to it, as you said, quite a few times. There are some misses, there's some notifications and stuff that could have been better, and we learn from those things and we try to improve, and that's ongoing right now. So we're continuing to message that Everbridge out. We're continuing to try to create opportunity for people to sign up and pass that message out for people to do it. It's in the city newsletter, I think 2 months ago, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and actually, I think we have it just about every one. It's just been kind of a running little article in there to sign up.
So for there, we're even reaching those folks that aren't technology driven and stuff. So they're getting an actual letter with their bill that says, hey, this is where you need to go and this is what you need to do. So I think we're trying to cover all those bases.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions before he moves on here? Okay, great. So just thinking with that, I have a question for you, Councilor Ort. Did you see any specific grant opportunities for something in line with this request here?
I apologize. I just saw that come through, and I wasn't just a couple hours before the meeting, and I wasn't able to really delve into that. But I thought, if the chief saw it and Alyssa has a chance to look at it, I think there might be an opportunity to, figure out ways that we can strengthen our emergency plan. I appreciate what the chief had to say about the sirens, because I was actually walking by the water tower today, and that was one of the places that Ms. Porter was talking about putting a siren in, but I just kept thinking, well, what is it? When the siren goes off, what does it mean? And so that was a concern of mine, is that we do have, there could be different things. It could be a fire, it could be the dam breaking, knock on wood, that never happens. But so there's lots of different things that could happen, and so I don't know what, would that ensue chaos? So that would be a concern of mine too.
Yeah. Yeah, initially when I read this proposal, this idea here, I was kind of in favor of it, but hearing the idea of this mixed response problem, I kind of tend to agree with you on that. Now, any other councilors wishing to speak on this? Okay, go ahead and move on. Okay. Is anyone else wishing to offer, anyone in the audience wishing to offer testimony? We already did that. Okay. Does anyone have a motion to make on this one?
Councilor Patty?
Yes, Counselor.
I make a motion to adopt the 2022-23 budget as presented.
We also need to make sure in that motion that you include the language for making appropriations and levying property taxes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
I apologize. I will
We want to make
rescind
sure
that.
we do all that.
Motion.
Okay, we're rescinding the motion.
Okay. I would like to offer a motion to approve resolution number 1037, adopting the 2022-23 fiscal year budget, making appropriations for the 2022-23 fiscal year, and levying and categorizing taxes for the fiscal year. as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion from Counselor Orton, a second from Counselor McDonald. Discussion. Alyssa, will you please pull the council?
Sure. Counselor Ort,
Yes.
Counselor Patty,
Yes.
Counselor Quigley,
Yes.
Counselor McDonald.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on. Pretty much concludes our business for the evening. Do we have any communications from city staff, Alyssa?
I do not. Just a reminder, I guess I do in a way, a reminder about our executive session tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock at City Hall.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Any communications from the council since the mayor's not with us this evening?
Alyssa, when is our city manager's first official start date?
Julia's start date is next Wednesday, June 15th.
Awesome. Anybody else? Okay. Well, with that, it's 8:17. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting.